All right. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Leadership Matters Live, episode 3. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back. Here with me today is my co-host, Michelle Navarro. What's
Hello,
going on,
everyone.
Michelle? How are you?
Good.
And a very special guest, a former student of mine, Evan Schumer. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, man.
Pleasure to have you here, man. Absolutely. I'm doing well. I'm going to start out with a little bit of levity because I'm sitting here waiting at the computer and I'm ready to go. I got the microphone ready. I got my notes, pen, water, just in case I need a little water. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, where's Michelle and Evan? Why haven't they logged on yet? And then Michelle texts me at 7:57 saying, did you send the link? And I'm like, yeah. All right. Might want to hurry up.
I need that.
That's taken care of. We're here now. So we're starting out with a little bit of a recap of what we spoke about last Wednesday on Leadership Matters Live number 2 with our conversation with Dr. Frangiosa. And Evan, I thought this would be interesting for you, considering you actually had Dr. Frangiosa as a teacher your junior year of high school.
Yes.
Which would have been the last year before he made this switch to what he's doing now.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in what you were telling me earlier.
So let me ask you this question before I give you a bit of a recap.
Yeah.
We joked about it a little bit on Wednesday night that before he started doing this, he was very much of the authoritarian teacher in the classroom. Do it my way. This is, my way or the highway. If you don't get it in on this time, it's a 0. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I only have good things to say about French. I had a good experience in his class. Definitely, you were held to a standard, which I respected. But I think we had a good relationship because we had a sports background, so we had a foundation already.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think I just, respected him, and I think he saw that.
Nice.
We would always talk hoops and that type of thing.
Okay. Well, I think you're going to appreciate some of the things that he's doing now. I mean, obviously grades is such a very big thing in high school, and it's such a huge thing junior year of high school because that's what a lot of colleges are looking at. But what he's doing now, it's completely different. He has a book coming out the end of March called Going Gradeless. Mm-hmm. And what he does now is he teaches according to 7 skill-based standards that students need to know in his class. And I've been teaching with him now for 6 years. The growth of the students from then to now, it's incredible. They're doing so much higher level work with his method now than in the past. And really essentially what it is that there's no punishment for not doing well. And instead of handing in an assignment and getting a 0 and having that 0 weigh you down, there's an assignment, there is feedback on how you can improve on that assignment, and then there's a path, an outlines path on how you could continue getting better along the way. And so if you get a 0 today and 100 tomorrow, it doesn't average out to a 50. There's a constant growth pattern and along the way, and language is a very big thing. So, I think everyone should really pay attention to him. David Frangiosa, check out his book, Going Gradeless, that he's actually doing with Elise Burns, another teacher at the school that we work at. It's going to be very big things. Michelle, would you agree? Like, what stood out to you in our conversation with Dave?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the book so I can learn more and go a little more in depth. But I like that it was skill-based instead of focusing on just the concepts. It's more developing the skills that students need that will help them moving forward in life. So critical thinking and problem solving, etc. And that it was focused on the progression of learning so that you're focused on that the student is improving. Yeah. And how he discussed how when you get those bad grades, for some students, that might be enough to make them stop trying. And we want students to continue to keep trying to learn. And so that moving away from grades as much kind of helps in that. And that he's seen a lot of progress. Like he has the data collected from the years that he's been doing this at the school that show the students are showing massive improvement. So I was very curious about it. And I think some aspects of it I could definitely see involving and including in my teaching.
One of the things that he pointed out, and Evan, maybe you can relate to this a little bit, and I know I can. In high school, I wasn't that honors student. Michelle was, by the way. Look out for her. But I wasn't that honor student. I was that student that, I'd study for 3-4 hours and I'd get an 85. Like that was me. And he points out that those students that, are getting those A pluses all the time, they can probably do that without the teacher. They're going to go home. They're going to read what they need to read. They're going to research what they need to research. But some students, and he's changing the language, he's calling them striving students or striving learners. That things don't always come easy. And there are other obstacles that could be in the way that are affecting how they learn. And it's just, it's just a way to outline for those people how to continuously get better. And because it's not always intrinsic. So this is kind of a map, a roadmap to how to do that. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. The concept is something that I have agreed with since I was even in high school. I think I understand the grading system because you need some form of measurement.
Right.
But the idea that everyone learns the same is false. I mean, for me alone, I realized even in high school that I learned differently than what was being taught and how it was being taught. I needed to put in that extra work, as you and I had often done together.
Yeah.
But there's some A+ students who aren't A+ people. They're good at school, but they're just either they're not good people or they don't have a good understanding of other things that a B student might have outside of school. So right. I don't think that grades are a true measurement of intelligence. What I was telling you the other day, Mr. S, was I was listening to a podcast. Yeah, yeah, a little torn between the two, between Rob and Mr. S. Mr. S for now.
Right.
But I was listening to a podcast the other day about Bill Gates, and it was a former employee of his, and they said that he is not the smartest person on the planet, but he surrounds himself with those types of people. But he actually has a higher EQ, emotional intelligence, than his IQ. Right. So getting an A isn't really a true measurement of who you are as an individual. So I agree with everything you've said so far.
Yeah. And that makes me think of, we recently a lot of discussion about now that schools will have to figure out how to do state assessments, state tests. Why? And they're not really a true measure of the student's intelligence, abilities, future success. Many students will not do well on those assessed state tests and become amazing people, have great careers. And it doesn't measure other skills that you need in life, like interpersonal skills, emotional skills. Right. So you're absolutely right, Evan. I agree with that.
One of the things that I like to point out is that the number one factor in success is perseverance. And Michelle, you and I were talking a little bit about that the other day. But, first off, Evan's got that in spades. Like I remember there were some days where we were literally knocking our head against the wall trying to figure out one math problem. And, then he'd be there in class taking that test. And it's like, come on, dude, time's up. But he's still working at it. He's still getting it. Right? And if you give him enough time, he's going to get it. Right. And that's the thing. Like in life, there's no real time limit. I mean, granted, we all have a starting point and an ending point, but it's not a race. You get there when you get there. And as long as you're continuing to work, you will get there. Right. I like to tell people, learn how to rest and not quit. Right. And that's something that, a lot of us have to figure out. We can take a day off, but then take that moment to rest up but then keep on going, figure out how to keep going forward after that. But he's really, he's teaching a lot of critical thinking skills. And one of the things that it always comes back to is language and feedback, making sure that everyone understands the language that we are working with in our learning, and then making sure that there is communication back and forth between the teacher and the student, which kind of leads us a little bit about talking about that teacher-student relationship. that's so important. If you don't have that, giving that feedback is not as valuable because the student may not hear it.
Right. It's very important, I think, to develop those relationships and that rapport with the students so that not only are they willing to take risks in the classroom and try things and let you know that they're not getting something, that they need help, but that when you give that feedback, that they're receptive to it. They won't view it as criticism, but they'll view it as, okay, so I need to work on this and this. I'm doing well with something else. I need to work on this or that. I mean, obviously you have to, it's based on how you give that feedback, but if you develop that relationship with your students, they want to get feedback from you. They'll be open to it and be more receptive to what you have to say because they know that you care about them, they trust you, and that you have their best interests at heart. You're trying to help them.
Right. So this is a comment about colleges. And hey, Tracy, how are you? Many colleges don't even need the grades to get into. I think that's what she's saying, which is a little news for me. I mean, I always thought colleges are, really, really looking at those grades.
But they're moving away. A lot of schools moving away from the SATs.
Okay.
A lot of those are now optional because I think they understand that you could have students that are great students that don't do well in those assessments.
Right. That's what she's saying, the standardized tests. Right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Evan, you are going into coaching or you're dabbling back into coaching. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm picking up coaching. That transition from playing to coaching is kind of where I'm at. So
you were a player in high school, and did you continue playing into college?
Yeah, I played a year in college before, I wanted to take my academics a little more serious. I was kind of finished with my playing career. And I found an interest in motivational psychology, a lot of the psychology of coaching, but it's very synonymous to teaching, right? Like a coach is essentially a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm learning now. A lot of motivational psychology, abnormal psychology, adolescent psychology, all that type of stuff.
It's funny. The other day, he asked me if I would be interested in coaching at some point in the future, and it's definitely something that I would look into. And when I first started teaching, that was the goal for me to get into the classroom and then figure out how to get into coaching basketball. Still something that I would enjoy doing, but I guess as in my educational career, I've just realized, well, coaching and teaching is pretty much the same thing, and I'm more needed here right now. And if the opportunity ever presents itself, I definitely will dabble into coaching. But I guess for now, this is where I am, and this is where I'll be. And then I guess I also wanted to point out that there's a reason why I'm doing this as well now, because I went from the military and I got very lucky. I always point that out, that I got very lucky with my military service, that I never had to serve overseas. So I had the opportunity to get my education, to then take that education and flip that into a career in education. And now as I'm realizing that I'm here, I'm in it now, there's more that I can do. There's more that I want to do. So essentially this here is becoming my classroom where I can talk to people about the things that I want to talk about that I can't always do in the regular classroom. I mean, Evan and I could have probably had conversations every single day in the classroom about tons of life lessons that kids should know and need to know, but we wouldn't have learned any math. So we needed to actually make sure we got that algebra out of the way. And unfortunately, I always feel like, all right, well, we're so busy learning the algebra, we're learning the physics or whatever the topic may be. And there's just not enough time for those things that I really find passion in and enjoy speaking about. So I started doing that on the podcast, and that brings us here now where we're doing this live on YouTube and Facebook and wherever else it may go in the future. Hopefully a lot of places. But essentially, this is our classroom now, Michelle.
A great opportunity to reach out to a lot of different people and for us to continue teaching and learning, because I love that. That's, again, back to the student-teacher relationships, letting the students know we're always learning too as teachers. We're always learning. And this is an opportunity for us to learn from others as well, for people to share their different perspectives. Because maybe there's something that I don't know about, or that a perspective I hadn't thought of. So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to having more people on here and sharing their experiences and their perspectives on different things.
You know, one of the things and reasons why I think Evan and I connected so well when we were working together, and I like to put it that way, we were working together at that time, because I didn't know all the content. I was learning a lot of that algebra content along the way with him, and we had to figure it out together. By the way, some of those things that we learned back then about percent of change and things like that, I was doing today with my son. So you can see there's a whiteboard behind me. We're doing those same math problems today that we were doing all those years ago.
They don't go away.
Yeah, they're always there, man. And I tell you what, it's still not that easy for me. I'm still kind of going through like, wait, what's the formula again? How do I think through this? You know, but I think that's what made me good back then. That's why we connected, because we had to think through it together.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we're here, we're not saying, hey, we have answers. We're just saying, look, this is a place for us to talk and hear other people's perspectives and see what you have to say. Right. So hopefully we just continue doing that, and we get as many people joining us as possible in the future. On Wednesday, I think we spoke about the book, the guy David Goggins, a little bit.
Yes, you were telling me about him. Yeah.
So on Wednesday, we have someone that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, this guy, Peter Navarro. I gave him your last name, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Miranda. He read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. He has been doing some challenges, and he's doing this 4x4x48 challenge on March 5th. He's running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 straight hours.
Wow.
And it's a serious challenge. So we're going to have him on with us on Wednesday night to talk a little bit about how he's been preparing for that. A little crazy. Michelle, you ready for that? Do you want to do a 4x4x48 anytime soon?
I'll be progressing from walking to to see step by step. Evan, I had a quick question for you. You talked about how you're studying and learning a lot about the motivational psychology and adolescent psychology. What are some things you could share with us about motivational psychology? Because I haven't heard that much about that, and maybe some of our listeners haven't either.
Well, one thing, there's some basic cornerstones of motivational psychology that the whole academia is built off of. So one of them is that our experiences shape our internal motives. So the things that we're currently doing, there's a reason why we're doing them, right? So we can't understand where we are if we don't understand where we've been, right? Or where we're going. So for example, let's think of a good example. Anyone have one? Something that's happened in the past that's led you to where you are now, or why you're doing what you're doing. Let's talk about this exact platform that we're using, right? Like Mr. S, your example is that you wanted to be able to teach kids exactly what you're doing now, right? So there's something in the past that has motivated you to this point. So it's looking at internal, external reasons for leading you to where you are, essentially.
I'm going to switch our view on this. I like this one. There we go. I think I like that a little better.
Yeah, it's much better.
There you go. All right, cool. So, and I mentioned the other day with you that this guy, Deepak Chopra, I was listening to him on his live, and it was unfortunate. The live actually crapped out. It was one of those things where it was going really well, and the person's internet just cut out. But one of the things he was saying, and really mirrors exactly what you just said, all thoughts are either a memory or a desire. And if you really think about that, anything that you think about, you're either thinking about it because it's a memory that you want to get that feeling that you had again. So that memory then changes into a desire, right? I want that memory again, whatever it was, I want that again. So what do I have to do to get that? Or it's a memory of a bad thing. What do I have to do to avoid that? One or the other.
Right.
So I guess for me, I have those good memories and those good feelings of speaking to students in the classroom and motivating them and inspiring them. And what I'm trying to do is just do that on a larger scale, right? Which is why I'm here, right? So that takes that experience that I'm trying to create something else out of.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Guy's pretty good. I don't know too much about him, Deepak Chopra, yet, but I'm going to be reading a lot more. He's got like 90 books out there, so I'm going to check those out soon.
Yeah, it makes me think also of my middle school principal, Brother Brian. He was very motivational and inspiring.
Catholic school?
Private school.
Okay.
He just had a way of connecting with the students and just motivating you, because you felt like he really cared about you. And I think that's an important memory for me. Like I remember staying after school, to just a bunch of us would stay to spend time together, talk, and you just knew that they would listen to you. They actually were listening to what you were saying. So I've always, that's important memory for me. I always think of that and like think about good teachers are there, good coaches are there for their students. Like you actually listen to them. Because how many kids don't feel like anyone listens to them? So that's a memory for me that's kind of motivated me to be better teacher.
Right. No, that's a good point. A lot of coaching is treating your athletes as, humans first. They're humans first, athletes second. And once you have that, foundational understanding in coaching, the athletes want to play for you. You don't have to get them to perform. They the best coaches in let's use basketball because it's something I feel like I know at the back of my head. Like a guy like Greg Popovich, right? There's a reason why they sit down during games and they don't need to stand. It's because their players are playing for them. He has a system that he's implemented, and the players play within it. He doesn't need to say a word, throughout the game, but they're playing for him, and they don't want to let him down because they have that emotional connection now. They care about how he feels as well.
And there's also some trust in there also because Greg Popovich has taken that system and created winners out of it in that system. So there's that trust that, hey, what he does works. And because he treats me like a human being and what he does works, okay, well, I'm going to have trust that what he does actually works. So when I go out there onto the court, I'm going to do it the way he has taught me to do it. And then there's the trust from Popovich to his players in that, hey, I've taught them, now let me trust them to go out and actually get this done.
Exactly.
Right. And then you can tell, like, in a system like that, they're thinking as they're going. They're not just doing what the coach tells them to do. They now have implemented a thought process into what they're doing that their coach would be proud of.
Right.
Reminds me of one of the things my drill sergeant used to say in the Army. And I'm not to make fun of any vets out there, but especially Marines, but he used to say, in the Marines, they tell you what to think. In the Army, we teach you how to think. Right. And I'm sure the Marines would have plenty of things to say about Army soldiers, but, I like how it goes. Evan, you and I had conversations with a couple other guys pretty late into the evening sometimes where we had that, hey, we might as well just order a pizza and keep on studying kind of vibe, right?
Right.
And I feel like that strong relationship where we talked a lot about things that had nothing to do with algebra is what really kind of fueled how we worked together. And it's something that I think, and I wish more teachers would do and could do later on in their careers, where now, like, you're out of high school, you're done with college now, right? Or are you finishing up soon? Done. So you're done. You're out of high school. So you're a full-grown adult now. So you and I can converse as friends, but obviously there's still 18, 20 years between us, right? So I can still hopefully guide you and help you and give you advice in some things, like don't have kids too young. but you know, like it's a relationship that can continue on after the students are out of the classroom. And it's very important. Unfortunately, Michelle's in elementary school, so she can't quite get that vibe.
No, although my first set of students are now going to college. They're freshmen or sophomores in college. So some of them have come back. They come back to their elementary school. And it's always touching because it's like, you remember me? It's like, yeah, you if you make an impact in their lives, people will remember their fourth grade, third grade teacher.
Right.
So we do have students that come back. And I think not only as an elementary school teacher, having that rapport with the students is so important because they're kids. They really need to feel safe in the classroom. But that rapport that you develop with the parents, having the parents feel comfortable that you have their back, that you have their child's best interests, and so that's helped me having a good relationship with my parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to tell you, like that doesn't really go away even into high school because like, I remember like we had to make sure that our little team were strong. Like, I mean, and not to put too much of Evan's business out there. Right. But his parents needed to know that, hey, if you're still hanging with your teacher at 5:30 at night, you got to be able to trust the teacher.
That's
you know,
right.
you got to know that, okay, it's a good person that your child is working with,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So the trust and that teamwork with the parents is there as well. Wanted to tell a quick story about how Coach was probably the biggest influence in my life, except for my father, I would say. I'm in 8th grade, and I'm killing it on the basketball court. I'm always the hardest worker on the court. But I'm still struggling a little bit in my classes. I don't know this for sure, but I think my father actually said to my coach, hey, can you talk to him about his grades? And what my basketball coach did was that he actually set up a meeting for every single player. As we were practicing and doing our drills and going through our stuff on the court, he pulled each one of us one by one into a classroom. And when he finally got to me, it was a very simple message. He said, look, on the court, you're always the hardest working player. I wish I had 15 players that worked as hard as you. Why wouldn't you do that same thing in the classroom and in your grades? And it was like, click right there. That's it. From then on, I was like, wow, yep, that did it. And that's an instance where it's a coach that, you know, of course he wanted to win and wanted to have a good team and he wanted me to play well and everything, but he cared more about the person than he did the player. And it made a big difference in my life. You know, Coach Sansonetti, if you're out there, you ever listening to this, I appreciate it. All right. And I know, Evan, as you go on into your coaching career, I'm sure you will be a very, very similar minded coach.
Yeah. The idea of, well, there's two principles that coaches tend to lean towards. I guess it applies to teaching as well, but it's significance and success. Success in the coaching example is the record, right? How well of a season you had. The significance is the impact that you had on the athletes, you know, the individuals. So someone had told me in one of my classes that when we pass, right, when we pass away, our record isn't on the tombstone. People don't remember that, but the impact that we have on people is what's left. So
yeah,
I thought that stuck with me. I thought that was a strong example.
Yeah, I like that. It's all about that impact that we're going to make.
Right. People will always remember how you made them feel.
Right.
Wasn't that a quote by Madeline something?
Oh, Maya Angelou, that people won't remember. I know I'm butchering it, but people won't remember everything that you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And I think that's true. You're right. They're not going to remember your record or every accomplishment, your resume or whatever's not attached. Yeah. They just remember what kind of person you were, how you made them feel.
Right.
Which, kind of makes me think about what's going on in this 2020, 2021 educational climate. Teachers right now are struggling. We're beat down. And if you are someone who's going into coaching or education in any form, you have a heart to help people. You got a heart to care for whether it's your players or your students, and teachers are no different. We want to do the absolute very best. That impact is something that we really care about. We care about making that impact, and we care about making sure that our students get the very best of us. But unfortunately, right now, it's very, very difficult to do that in this virtual climate. Relationships are not something that I've been very successful at with my students this year. It's been very tough to do that. And it just adds to the already overwhelmed teachers that we have in our society right now. Michelle, I know you wanted to bring up an article or a movie that you had seen recently.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of teachers kind of speaking about their feelings, how they're feeling overworked, overwhelmed, burnt out. A lot of teachers speaking out about this all over the country, because I kind of follow teachers from all over. And I saw an article that was talking about the portrayal of teachers in movies and how it doesn't really jive with the reality. How it's kind of like stereotypes of teachers being kind of like heroes, saints, or the worst.
Right.
And how you're meant to be selfless givers, give your all. And one of the movies they mentioned was Stand and Deliver, where the teacher gave his all to his students to the point where he was in bed in a hospital and didn't want to be there because he was worried about his students.
Yeah.
He wanted to
Jaime
give
Escalante in Stand and Deliver.
That's right. Great movie, by the way. And recently, on the news, you hear of teachers, teacher that conducted lessons from the hospital bed, and teachers doing substitute teacher plans from the hospital or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sets up these very unrealistic expectations that I think make it harder for teachers, one, to voice how we're authentically feeling, and also to ask for help, because I think so many are feeling like in this new environment, we're all teaching completely different. Some are tech savvy, some aren't. And like you said, developing those relationships with the students are so much more difficult. We should be able to kind of say, hey, we're struggling, and that's not going to make you a bad teacher.
Yeah.
To say this is difficult right now. This is not what I expected, or I don't know. There are days where I'm really drained and I'm trying my best.
Yeah.
I want to give service, but not completely selfless, where there's no more of you left.
Right.
Like, you have to be in a good place, healthy place, to be able to give to your students or your athletes that you're coaching. You have to be in a good place yourself, I would think.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about it a little bit the other day with Franj, that, so many teachers are out there struggling right now. You're not alone. We're all struggling through it. But there's this notion that has been out there for a long time, well before the pandemic hit, that if you're a teacher, you have to be completely selfless. You have to care about nothing else other than your profession. And it's just not realistic. I mean, a lot of times, and this is going back even to before I was at the school that I'm at right now, where lesson plans would go, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm still working and trying to make sure I'm ready for the next day. And that's just expected. You teach your whole day, you're expected to do a couple more hours after work for meetings, for grading, and then you still have to get ready for the next day. And if you ever say, well, I don't have time for that right now, or just can't, you're kind of looked at like, what's your problem? So Evan, and I got to say, like, you actually kind of benefited from the fact that I was still kind of in that old mindset, like, work until 6 o'clock at night, no big deal. Right. But as I've progressed a little bit, I've realized, oh, wow, like, where I am now, my administration is phenomenal. They really do their best to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, that we're taking our days they tell us to take our days if we need it, right? They make sure we have time for collaboration and prep and things like that. So self-care and self-help is very, very big where I am now, but it's not in a lot of areas within the United States. I say this very often. Where I'm teaching now, this is the place to be. As an educator, I'm in the right spot. right? But so many other educators are out there that are just not able to give that 110% every single day. And then as soon as they don't, they're almost vilified for it. And that's scary. That's very frustrating. To the point that you made, Michelle, in Hollywood on TV, teachers are thought of as either saints
Right.
or major sinners, like bad teacher, right?
Like that teacher, right.
You know. So I don't know where we go from there, but I think we're definitely at a crossroads in education where teachers are starting to speak up. And even me, like here, this platform who knows where it's going to go, but I definitely want to get other teachers' perspectives on that moving forward.
Right.
Is there anyone that you think you might want to talk to with that, as far as getting other teachers on here?
Oh yeah, I think there are a lot of teachers that would be willing to participate and be part of the discussion. Definitely. What I see a lot of too is almost a competitive, like, well, it's more difficult if you're in person. It's more difficult if you're remote. It's more difficult if you're hybrid. Well, it's more difficult for the parents. For all of us, it's difficult for all. We're all dealing in this new environment, this new situation, and we're all trying to adjust. Parents are struggling, no doubt about that. Struggling, like your job and trying to have your kids remote at home. Teachers that are in person, definitely you're at more risk. And it's more challenging than ever before. If you're teaching remotely, virtually, dang, that's hard. That is so difficult too. So I feel like almost kind of like if you say, well, this is difficult, someone else says, well, this is more difficult. No, it's all difficult right now. And I think we need to be more understanding and supportive of each other. And I think a lot of school administrations are being supportive and trying to understand and know that this is that we're going to be above and beyond, because we're adjusting everything. And then there's some that aren't, but
right.
I think we need to listen to each other and understand that we're all adjusting and going through it right now.
Evan, have you had any experience with virtual learning?
I haven't had a terrible experience. The one thing that I do like about it, the recorded lectures, is I can go at my own pace. I can rewatch them if need be. I find that to actually be beneficial, but it's none of this is ideal.
Right.
I think I've adjusted in the best way possible. But yeah, I've had an okay experience virtually.
Did you find that you had at any point have a hard time focusing when you needed to?
Yeah, the focus is tough because there's so many distractions being at home. That's definitely one of the adjustments. Again, none of this is ideal, but we make the best of it. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of distraction. I mean, even just in my room, and just look at things, and it's just distracting. But
something tells me there's a basketball hoop in there somewhere.
Not here, but in one of these rooms for sure. There's got to be a ball in like every room in my house. But, yeah, definitely a little distraction, but make it work.
Yeah, I think that's a big one because Michelle and I are parents and teachers, right? Who are teaching. I'm teaching hybridly, so sometimes I'm in person, sometimes I'm virtual. Michelle is full virtual, and we have kids that are also learning virtually. Juggling all of it is extremely difficult,
right?
And getting our kids to focus while they're supposed to be working, it's not easy at all. I mean, like when they're on the computer, it's just a swipe of a couple fingers, and then YouTube videos are right there.
Right.
Or the phone is right there. I had a student in class the other day, computer up just like it is now, right? But the phone sitting right there in front of the computer and headphones in. So he's literally watching a full episode of something while he's supposed to be doing his virtual work. I'm like, Come on, bud. Like, you're not even trying to hide it here. What's going on?
I think the younger kids have had, trouble with the virtual learning.
Yeah.
I think it's that self-discipline aspect. Like if you don't have a parent right on top of you, making sure that you're not, surfing
Right.
the internet or on your phone, that's definitely challenging, I would imagine.
Right. And on that note, like Michelle and I often talk about some of the equity struggles in education, right? Because it is definitely a self-discipline thing, right? And the younger kids are just not there yet. They're just not as disciplined yet. So if you are in an urban area or a lower income area, or you just come from a family that has parents that are busy working and you're there trying to do this school virtually without a parent standing over your shoulder, making sure you're doing it.
Right.
Well, then, the challenges are just compounding.
Mm-hmm.
I speak for my own son in particular, both my guys, like if they don't have me right there on them, telling them, do this, do this, do this, then they might be on and they might not be on. Like, it's a crapshoot. Who knows what's really happening.
Yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. And then you add to that, that some students just don't have the internet or the devices to make sure that they have access.
Yeah.
And that's in urban areas, that's also in rural areas where some students don't have internet.
Yeah.
So that limits them a lot. That reduces their possibilities of learning, in addition to parents needing to work. So not being there, not being able to redirect or monitor. It's like I'm not able to monitor either, because I'm teaching. So I hope you're logged on. Like during the break, I'll check. It's like, are you on? Are you doing what you need to do? So I know that for parents, this has been challenging for the younger ones. But, like with everything, when there's there's always positive lessons that you can learn from this situation. And I think things like having those recorded lessons, recording something, a video, and adding that to your Google Classroom or whatever, allows a student to go back.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not saying I'm not the most tech savvy and a little resistant. It's forced me to say, well, I got to get up on this technology, because something like that, where having a video, even recording a video of yourself explaining something, the student can go back. So I think that moving forward, once hopefully we're all back in the classroom and things kind of go back to somewhat normal, there are lessons that we're learning through this process that we can bring into the moving forward that will help our teaching and help our students.
You think we'll ever find a time or come to a time where teachers are not expected to just go so far above and beyond as it is right now? And what do you think has to happen for that to be the case?
I think there definitely have to be changes from the top down. I think the powers that be that are setting all of the rules and regulations and making schools focus so much on compliance.
Yeah.
And therefore the focus is not where it should be as much, where it should be on the learning. Like, I think more focus needs to be on the learning and supporting teachers to be able to teach in the best way. So for all students to learn.
Yeah.
I think I'm positive. I'm trying to be positive that these changes can happen. The more teachers speak out.
And that's a sensitive issue right now, because we're almost told, just be careful, like speak out, but be careful about what you say.
Absolutely.
Right? Don't speak out too much, right? Don't go against the establishment too much, right? So it's interesting to see where the conversation is going to go. I'm not going to say that we want to do any brown or groundbreaking stuff here on Leadership Matters, but who knows? We'll see, because I definitely want to talk to teachers from other areas of the country and see what kind of struggles they're dealing with as well.
Right. Evan, are you coaching? Are you coaching now?
Yeah, so I'm actually coaching a program that I started, post college, and we have a gym that they're letting us in, which is not common right now. So my
Yeah.
group is lucky that they're getting out of the house and being able to shoot around and that type of thing. But yeah.
So how long were you out of a gym? Like, did you have to spend a good amount of time because of COVID? Like, you couldn't get in there?
Yeah, so we were doing a lot of outside work,
Mm-hmm.
outdoor courts, that type of thing. There's only so much you could do, on an outdoor court, and it's hard to follow a lesson plan outside, I find.
Mm-hmm.
There's also distractions out there, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't like put in plays because there's no season, to work towards yet. So there wasn't too much structure, but as things are opening up and becoming a little more normal, yeah, we'll definitely put in some plays, make it a little more structure, and that type of thing.
I'm definitely here to help. I mean, anything I can help you with moving forward. I'm actually officially going to say that you're part of the Leadership Matters team now, because
Great.
like we're adding people in, and we've talked in the past about possibly working together in the future. So that'd be great. And to Rafael Colazo, thank you very much for checking in. I really appreciate it. Good to have you here. And yes, absolutely. Let's collaborate. Let's talk about some things moving forward. This is going to be the place for it every Wednesday and Sunday night. All right. So let's close this out with what we do here on Leadership Matters to close out every single episode. The 7 letters of leadership scrolling across the bottom of the screen. You pick one of those core values that stand out to you for tonight. Just a little bit about why it might stand out to you. Michelle, I am definitely going to put you on the spot first, and then I'll go to Evan, and then I'll finish up and close this out.
Okay. Definitely, I'm going to pick service again. So much of what we discussed today was being realistic about what it is like to be a teacher, the support that teachers need, and I love the discussion with Evan about how the relationship that coaches can have with their athletes, not just athletes, but as people as well. So developing those relationships. So service as teachers, as coaches, developing relationships, and for us to continue learning.
I'm reminded that you have a son who's graduating soon.
Yes.
And he is very much into fitness.
Yeah.
And basketball.
Loves basketball.
Right.
Yes.
So we can, like not outside the realm of possibility that he may be coaching somewhere someday.
I would love to connect him with you, Evan, so that you guys could talk a little more about your experience, because I think he would really be interested in that. And I just think like how important sports are to our students, our young people, and developing those relationships, because it's not just one person reaching the life of a student. It's their parents, their teachers, coaches, just all trying to give to the student, to develop them and help them reach their potential.
Right.
It's kind of like the tree of life that we got in the upper right-hand corner there, right?
Right.
That's why we got that there. Branches and tentacles go everywhere.
That's right.
Evan, you're up, buddy. What do you got?
All right, let's see. We got loyalty. I like the service one, but just for the sake of doing something different, I'm going to choose a different one here. I think loyalty is one that stands out. With kids specifically, once we have a leadership role, we become relied on. At least in coaching and teaching, we don't know what a lot of these kids are going home to. When things were normal, you would come to school, and you might go home to something that's not constructive.
Yeah.
So being loyal to the kids, and the impact that we have on them, and being consistent with that is important.
Very good point. Very good point. It's not that was I wasn't expecting that one. That's a good one.
Is that a good one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. So with that, I'll go with H for honor, because we have to honor those relationships and honor each other. I think the more I learn about just what Evan was talking about in some of the Eastern psychology, motivational sports psychology, and some of the actually correct. Let me correct myself. That would be Western psychology, and some of the Eastern philosophies that I'm learning about. They're connecting, and I guess we have to honor the fact that we have some traditions from the past that are relevant today, and we have to honor the fact that we are learning new things every single day in neuroscience and in psychology, that all of those things are coming together. So I'll just honor the people that have come before us and continue trying to push forward with what we can teach others. And that's what Leadership Matters is here to do. Just take all of that information, wherever it may come from, and throw it back out there to other people so that they can learn from whatever these broadcasts are. All right. Thank you very much, guys. This was good. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of this. Evan, it's great to have you here. It's very good to see you again. And then hopefully we'll get together in real life soon.
Yes, thank you for
Michelle,
having me, guys.
Thank you, man. Michelle, as always, pleasure. And we'll be doing this again on Wednesday night. Everyone, let me make sure I get the banner going across here. You can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or just email us at Leadership Matters, at leadershipmatters@gmail.com. Follow us, check us out. We want to hear what your perspective is. We'll be back here Wednesday night talking to Peter Miranda about the 4x4x48 challenge that he's working through, and other people, any other teachers, coaches, leaders from all walks of life are welcome to be on here with us. Our goal is simply to share the lessons that we're getting with other people so that we can help youth and young adults overcome the circumstances that they're dealing with.
Yeah,
all right, everyone. Be well.
Bye.